Hello, and welcome to my channel, Reading Little Blue Books Out Loud. This is a Little Blue Book. This happens to be Little Blue Book number 417. It is entitled The Nature of Dreams, written by Hereward Carrington Ph.D. And this is part 4, I believe. Let me look. Yes, this will be part 4. And we left off near the bottom of page 36 with the new chapter, The Dreams, Alice in Wonderland, and Through the Looking Glass. Probably every reader of this book has read the two famous books of Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. He may have read them when a child, but if he will reread them now from the point of view of modern dream psychology and analysis, he will be surprised to find how accurate they are and what a light they throw upon the whole dream problem. Let us take just a few illustrations from these famous books by way of showing this. It will be at once evident that the author has chosen for the material of his dream stories just the sort of material with which a child's mind would be stocked. Cards, chessmen, a kitten, sheep, flowers, a dormouse, a caterpillar, a lion, a unicorn, a mock turtle, a griffin, etc. The unreal being just true as the real to the childish mind. These are the characters of the dream books, a mouse, a rabbit, etc. These are the opening events and personages whom Alice meets. As usual, Alice herself is the central and most important personage, the heroine, who observes and enacts all the principal events and rules, and around whom all the chief characters revolve. In addition to this dream material, Lewis Carroll also introduced a number of imaginary characters and objects, extensions of nursery rhymes and superstitions, which every child would naturally know. Thus Humpty Dumpty, the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, Tweedledum and Tweedledee with their nice new rattle, and all examples of this such well-known stories as the lion and the unicorn fighting for the crown, the knave of hearts stealing the tarts, etc., are also utilized. The influence of school life lessons is also very manifest. All through both books, the characters are constantly setting one another sums to figure out, problems and riddles to solve, questions to answer, etc. All of which we might expect to find in a child's mind, in which lessons occupy so prominent a place. The manner in which scenes change and glide one into another is also very characteristic of the dream world. Thus, the little shop is transformed into the boat on the river, and the knitting needles in Alice's hands into ours, only to be retransposed into needles again later, at the time the river insensibly changes back again into the little dark shop. The egg changes as she approaches it to Humpty Dumpty. The heads of the red and white queens vanish from her lap without her knowing it. They are just gone. The rushes, which Alice picked in the stream, began to fade and vanish in her hands as soon as she had picked them. These, being dream rushes, melted away almost like snow as they lay in heaps at her feet. But Alice hardly noticed this. There were so many other curious things to think about. Even the looking-glass thinned and admitted her passage, when she tried to push her way through it. In this way she entered the looking-glass world. Nearly everything in the book is personalized, that is to say, is given life and personality by the dreamer, so much so that nearly everything talks. Even time is personified. If you knew time as well as I do, you wouldn't talk about wasting it. It's him. Similarly, the leg of mutton is introduced to Alice and gets up and bows. At various times, mention is made of running and flying at incredible speed through the air, the flying dream. When she falls down the rabbit hole, this is the falling dream. The Jabberwock poem is written backwards. The mirror world is all turned round. Sleeping, dreaming, vanishing, etc. are often alluded to throughout the book. These are only a few points which occur to the mind, showing us that a study of the Alice books, from the point of view of modern dream psychology, would be well worth while, since they are filled with suggestive and interesting material. Next chapter, Your Dream's Eye. What are your dream eyes? In other words, with what do you see in your dreams, and what do you see? Have you ever thought of this problem? Certainly, you do not see with your physical eyes, since your eyelids are closed and the eyeballs are turned inward. When you sleep, your physical body is lying an inert mass upon the bed, and yet you see clearly, vividly, a series of scenes, and also people, with whom you occasionally converse. But if you do not see them with your physical eyes, with what do you see them? Here, reader, is the problem for you to ponder over. Most dreams are visual in character, as I have before pointed out. We see far more often than we smell, taste, or touch. This corresponds to our experiences in waking life, for our sight plays a far greater role than any of our other senses. Our imagination is mostly visual. When we imagine any series of events as taking place, these events usually float before the mind's eye in the form of a series of pictures, giving rise probably to the old expression, building castles in Spain. Well, does that make sense? Yep, building castles in Spain. The mind, therefore, has somehow developed within itself this picture-forming faculty, and vividly depicts to itself a series of scenes, as in a mirror, which may be colored or shadow-like. This faculty is known as visualization, and is so vivid in certain cases that the mental pictures take on the character of objective things, in which case they constitute what we call hallucinations. Crystal visions are of this character, for the figures seen in the crystal ball do not, of course, exist in the ball, but in the mind of the seer. They are merely projected outwards, and are so vivid in character that they appear actually to exist in space, in such cases in the ball. This power of imagination is in itself a very extraordinary faculty, and it has been pointed out that it is a projection into the future by the mind, just as memory is a projection into the past. We can imagine ourselves as enacting various scenes, and can even imagine various persons, who never actually existed, playing their various roles in this little drama. This occurs in daydreaming, and also in the ordinary dreams of night. If, however, the scenes which we perceive actually correspond with events which are happening at the time, we can then no longer dismiss them as mere imagination. but if they are detailed enough, we must assume some telepathic or other supernatural agency at work. It has been suggested that imagination is really a play of the astral senses, and that when we imagine a certain thing, we really see that thing enacted on another plane of being. But this, of course, is a purely occult theory, which is not accepted by orthodox psychology. At all events, it is a most interesting problem which confronts us here. How we see in our dreams is part of a larger question: how the mind can build up these mental pictures for itself in any case. This has never been satisfactorily explained, and until this is done, we can have small hope that the lesser understood manifestations occurring in dreams will be explained either. Next chapter, the occult theory of dreams. Many theories have been advanced in the past to account for dreams, from the views entertained by savages to the most modern psychological views. Believers in psychical and occult phenomena have naturally theories of their own to account for dreams, particularly vivid and striking dreams which seem in some way to correspond with reality. We must see what they are. It is held to be a truism in psychology that we cannot dream anything which we have not in some way experienced. Dreams are fabricated in the deeps of the subconscious mind, and whatever is in the subconscious must have got into it, say the psychologist, through the five senses. Dreams are compounds made up of past mental and physical experiences. Of course, in one sense, everyone knows this to be untrue. We dream of being in places we have never seen, of people we have never met, or even of being upon the moon or some distant star. We have never experienced that. But the reply of the orthodox psychologist is that these dreams represent the mere extension by the imagination of ideas, images, etc., which are familiar to us in daily life. They are mere variations of these. But there are many dreams which are certainly hard to account for on any ordinary theory, and these dreams psychoanalysis, for instance, cannot explain. These are the so-called supernatural dreams, telepathic, clairvoyant, prophetic, etc., examples of which have already been given in this series. The only resort of materialistic science is to deny that they exist, an ostrich philosophy indeed. Granting that they do exist at times, what is their explanation? Occult science has advanced a theory for these dreams which is profoundly interesting. It is contended, to begin with, that whenever we lose consciousness for any reason, whenever we faint, go to sleep, take an anesthetic, etc., the living mind or consciousness leaves the physical body. That is what unconsciousness is. In addition to the physical body, we are said to possess another, finer, or more subtle body, an astral body, which corresponds in appearance to the physical body, but is composed of more subtle and finer matter. This body is the vehicle of the mind. It acts as a sort of connecting link between mind and body. It is the body of sensation and emotion, and it is with this body that we feel. That is why a corpse does not feel any pain, although its nervous system is still intact. The astral or life body has departed from it, carrying with it the soul of man. And that is why we do not feel any pain while under the influence of an anesthetic, and the physical body can be cut up without sensation on our part. It is because the body of feeling has been removed completely from the physical body and only connected with it by the finest of threads, easily broken. Now in sleep, this body also leaves the physical body, but the connections are deeper and stronger. Hence our ability to respond to bodily sensations to some extent during sleep, but the astral body is out of the physical body, hovering above it, subject to thought streams and impressions from other minds, as well as fabricating thoughts of its own. Hence the confused jumble of dreams, which we find it hard to bring back into the physical brain when we awaken. But by subtle physical and occult development, we can learn to make this severance more complete and control the thoughts and motions of this astral body and move about in it and think at will. When we have learned this, we become one of the so-called invisible helpers. We are then an active and busy and conscious during our sleeping hours as we are during the waking life. This is the occult theory of dreams, which, it may be said, has many striking phenomena in its favor. Next chapter, telepathic dreams. Physical science has proved that telepathy or thought transference can operate just as readily or even more readily in sleep as it does in waking hours. We can have telepathic dreams which may be instigated by the thoughts of distant living people, and in these dreams we get the thoughts of the absent person and the danger in which he may happen to be in at the time. The form of the dream is doubtless determined by the dreamer's own mind, but its substance is obtained from another, living mind by telepathy. The following case is a good example of this. Pardon me. Some years ago, I was the guest in the home of an intimate friend whose unmarried sister was away at the time. My hostess, whom I will call Miss J, was taken suddenly and seriously ill. The family doctor was summoned, but he was away, and a strange physician was called, and he was in attendance upon Mrs. J when at midnight her own doctor arrived. Early the following morning I received a telegram from the absent sister saying, "Is anything wrong at home?" Answering immediately, I replied, and before the day was over a letter addressed to me and mailed when the telegram was sent came from the absent sister saying, "I have had a peculiar and impressive dream of home. I saw A lying on the bed as if very ill, while in the dressing room, as if in consultation, were two doctors, Dr. L, the family physician, and a stranger, a tall, dark man, whom Dr. L addressed as Dr. Rice. So impressed am I that something is wrong, that I write to you in order to know as soon as possible the meaning of this strange vision." Her dream was as vivid a portrayal of what was actually occurring at her home during the night as I, personally present, could have given. She was almost correct as to the name of the strange doctor, whose real name was Dr. Reed. The absent sister had no cause for being worried about her sister, who had been quite well when last heard from. That the sick sister was thinking of the absent one, I know. May she not, through her desires, have unconsciously thrown upon the mind of the absent one certain photographic revelations of what was actually occurring? The accuracy of this case was verified at the time by Dr. Richard Hodgson, Secretary of the American Society of Physical Research. This is but an example of the many so-called telepathic dreams which have been gathered in the past by investigators in this field. May we not suppose that, when the conscious mind is inactive, the doors of the soul are to some extent thrown open, and that telepathic messages may in this way be received, messages which the conscious mind would fail to notice in the hustle and bustle of a busy, active life. The evidence certainly tends to prove this, for there are many thousands of cases that have been recorded similar to this one. Next chapter. Clairvoyant dreams. Just as telepathy may operate in dreams, upon rare occasions, so may even more striking manifestations occur during sleep. These are probably more rare, but are far commoner than supposed, and a large number of them have been collected by various researchers and by the Society for Psychical Research. In telepathic dreams, a direct transference seems to take place between the mind of the agent and the dream consciousness of the subject. In clairvoyant dreams, on the contrary, a picture or image of the scene in which the agent is playing his part seems to have been somehow visioned by the dreamer's mind, and is to some extent at least independent of any form of direct telepathy or thought transference. The following case is typical of this character of dream, and was reported to the Society by Mrs. Fries, and was confirmed in writing by her son. In September of 1881, I had another curious dream so vivid that I seemed to see it. My two boys of 18 and 16 were staying in the Black Forest. I must say here that I always supposed the boys would go everywhere together, and I never should have supposed that, in that lonely country, so new to them, they would be out after dark. My husband and I were staying at St. Leonard's, and on Saturday night I awoke at about 12 o'clock, having just seen vividly a dark night on a mountain, and my eldest son lying on his back at the bottom of some steep place, his eyes wide open, and saying, "Goodbye, mother and father, I shall never see you again." I woke with a feeling of anxiety, and the next morning, when I told this to my husband, though we both agreed it was absurd to be anxious, yet he would write and tell the boys we hoped they would never go out alone after dark. To my surprise, my eldest boy, to whom I wrote the dream, wrote back expressing his great astonishment, for on that Saturday night he was coming home over the mountains past 11 o'clock. It was pitch dark, and he slipped and fell down some 12 feet or more and landed on his back. Looking up to the sky, however, he was not much hurt, and soon picked himself up and got home all right. In this case, it will be seen a fairly accurate reproduction of a distant scene was impressed upon the dreamer's mind. But the case is also instructive in that it shows us the play of the dreamer's subconscious mind. Her son was not much hurt, as a matter of fact, but seeing him in this dangerous attitude, which was apparently the result of an accident, her dream consciousness inferred the fact that he had been seriously hurt, and elaborated on its own hook, as it were, the dying message, "I shall never see you again," etc. Clairvoyant dreams of this character seem to prove to us that there is a dweller in this bodily temple who sometimes looks abroad, and who is capable of severing its connection for the time being with the physical body known to us in daily life. Such dreams seem to show that the body is not, after all, the real person, but merely a vehicle through which this invisible dream personality usually manifests. And I think we will stop there, and we'll see you in part 5.